Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Caroline Logan. I'm the Programme Director for BuildForce from a very dreary Dorset day. But we're going to bring you some sunshine with one of our founding partners, Morgan Sindall, and a fantastic lineup of military magic from different areas of their core business. So that's enough from me. I am going to sit back and enjoy. Over to you, Angela.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our BuildForce virtual career chat. I'm Angela Forbes, and it's a pleasure to welcome you, so thank you for dialing in. Now, it has, of course, been Remembrance Day and Remembrance Sunday, and I hope you watched or took part in ceremonies remembering the service and sacrifice of all those who have defended our freedoms and protected our way of life. Now, the team at BuildForce, our employers and our sector appreciates all that you do for us and the sacrifices that you made and continue to make whilst serving. So we thank each and every one of you for dialing in and for everything that you do for us. And BuildForce is our way of giving back to you. So we aim to help you the best we possibly can. And standing beside us today to do that, we welcome Morgan Sindall. Now, they sit across the built environments in the construction and regeneration space. And with a collection of companies, a growing order book, their story is both fascinating and very, very impressive. So to discuss this further, we'll welcome Paul Jennings, who will share an intro to Morgan Sindall, and he will kick us off this morning. And then we are going to hear from 4 veterans. So we've got ex-Royal Engineer, now Head of Design, Rob Atkinson. We've got our ex-Royal Marine in there, now a Logistics Manager, in Guy Kenovan. We've got another Royal Engineer, now Senior Health and Safety Advisor, Dominic Glides. And we will finish with ex-BuildForce candidate and ex-Royal Marine, now a Site Manager, Gavin Bolger. So we will take all questions at the end, but please free to write in any comments as we go. And without further ado, Paul, we will hand over to you. I think you've got a presentation that you want to bring up.
Thank you, BuildForce, for giving us the chance to speak to everybody today. As I said, my name is Paul Jennings. I'm a Social Value Manager for Morgan Sindall Construction, and I have Rob Atkinson, Guy, Dominic Glide, and Gavin Bolger with me from the company. But first, a little bit about it. Morgan Sindall, for those of you who don't know, is a massive company. We have a turnover of £3.5 billion, and we're the second largest construction company in the country, with offices across the UK. The diagram on the left there, that basically just tells you we're not just a small thing, we are multiple areas. By which I mean, if it can be built, then the chances are we're building it. So we work for construction, we build things like schools, hospitals, leisure centres and so on, infrastructure, roads, railways, nuclear energy, water, power plants, Crossrail. We also have Lovell, the housing business, and we also deal with fit out through Overbury and Morgan Lovell. And all of the money that we create typically goes into the investment arm of it. The point we're making with this slide is if you join Morgan Sindall, there are multiple opportunities across multiple businesses. And that just there's some of them are represented here. Again, things that aren't represented there are stuff like rail, which aren't there. Now, one of the reasons for doing this kind of thing is very clearly there is a massive skills gap within the construction sector, and we work very hard to generate talent from wherever it exists. And we think ex-military is an area where there are multiple talented people for us to that we really want to connect with the business. I think it says 266,000 people required, and year in, year out, more than 46,000 people are leaving the business. And that's the kind of thing you can expect. Typically, when we deal with an event like this, the majority of people want us to tell them what it is, what it does, but ultimately how much they earn. So, a few of the things that we would normally expect in the construction sector, if you need qualifications, they will be paid for. You get 26 days holiday, and more often than not, you'll get a company car and or cash for car allowance. Often you have vouchers and discounts, but the key one for me there is job variety. Once you've joined the organisation, there are multiple areas that you can move into, and your career going in many, many different ways. And the bottom one there, particularly prevalent recently with COVID, private healthcare. So yeah, if you come and join Morgan Sindall and or the construction sector, there's lots for you. It's well paid and you're well looked after. But enough about that. I think it's time now to move on. So I'm going to introduce to my colleague Rob Atkinson. Rob, over to you.
And thank you for Paul for saying that I'd only recently left the military, it made me feel young again. It's only been 22 years. But it does feel like yesterday. Just a bit about my story, I suppose, really. I think it's fair to say that when I was at school, if someone said to me that you would have spent 22 years in the construction industry, I probably would have laughed at them. My view of the construction industry at that time probably was hairy-ass builders on site laying bricks, cutting up bits of wood, and generally getting dirty and messy. I was looking for a career in engineering. In fact, I went to university. My other passion is sailing. And I suddenly discovered, I don't know if anyone else did one of those careers questionnaires when you were at school. I think one of my friends who was a geologist and then is a management accountant, his said he ought to be a nursery school teacher or something like that, which he was horrified at. Mine actually came out with something useful and suggested I did a degree in yacht design, which is what I went and did. And my aspiration was to be the next Bruce Farr and design wonderful ocean-going yachts. When I was at university, I joined the Sappers in the what I think was then called the TA, and then I segued from that into the University Officer Training Corps, which was pretty much a big drinking club where we got to roll around in the mud as well. So that was all great fun. And I thought, do you know what? There's something in this. I don't want to be sitting there designing the widget on a yacht, because it was fairly apparent that only the really successful people would get to design the whole thing. Maybe I'll try this instead. So off I went to RCB, went to Sandhurst, and commissioned into the Royal Engineers. So I did my 6 months training up at Chatham and Minley, and then I was a troop commander in 5 Field Squadron, in a mechanised field squadron, and then I moved on to be ops and then acting 2IC in 4-2 Field Squadron in Hameln in Germany. And that was did a couple of operational tours, Bosnia and Northern Ireland, where we did various, you could call them construction activities, but they're fairly low level. We certainly weren't building buildings. So what I knew about actually building stuff, probably you could have written on the back of a postage stamp at that point in time. My original thought was to do 16 years, get my half pension, go and get a chartership through the professionally qualified route, and join a specialist team, Royal Engineers, and again, engineering, be a designer, do that sort of thing. I think with the pressures of op tours and the start of a new family, I decided that there was a change of tack that I needed to take, and so I decided after 5 years that I would leave the forces and start a new career where I could be a little bit more present with my family. So I suppose the thought was then, what the hell do I do? What am I qualified to do, and where should I go? Like a lot of people, I suppose I sought out some contacts. I came across a recruitment consultant who, despite most of the staff being ex-Royal Artillery, seemed like a nice bunch of guys, and specialised in recruiting for ex-servicemen. Had some skills in project management. I pretended I knew something about construction, and I managed to get myself a role working for Canary Wharf Contractors, and I started as a site manager. And a lot of the stuff I was doing at the time was around logistics and quality. I was visiting a lot of factories in Europe, and getting mixed in with them, making sure what they were delivering to site was good, that they were, rather than making all of part A and then all of part B, that they were maybe making 20% of A and 20% of B and then sending it to site, and all sorts of joined up things like that. And it was at that point that I realised that actually because I had a degree in engineering, and because I'd been involved in looking at drawings throughout my career that actually I had a bit of a skill in reviewing drawings, reviewing design information. So as a result of that, I then discovered that there was this thing called a design manager, which I'd never heard of before, frankly. So I was sort of thinking, okay, well, what is that? And it was a recruitment consultant actually who said, "Well, have you ever thought about being a design manager? Tell me more." So what do we do? Well, effectively, we are project managers of design. So during the pre-construction stages, so before we actually get on site, we're working with the architects, the structural engineers. We're managing that process to make sure the design we get meets the client brief. We are managing cost to make sure that what we get is affordable and within the client's budget. And we're also looking at value engineering to try and make sure that we're getting best value. And not only that, we're working with the construction team to make sure that what we are building is actually buildable. And I'm sure that the site management guys that come on and talk a bit later will understand what I'm talking about there. But all too often we get things that come to site that are problematic to build, are lacking in information. So my aim in life really is to make sure that when the site management team pick up a drawing, they know exactly what they're doing, they know how to do it, they know what order to do it in, and that they've got all the information they need to get on with it. And all of that within a sphere of working with a commercial team to make sure that we've got enough money in the project to pay for it and make a profit, because that's what we're about at the end of the day. So that's what I've been doing really for the last 22 years, or I suppose 20 years now, is design management. I say I'm now at a point where I'm line managing other design managers, but for quite a significant period of time, I've pretty much been in charge of myself and my desk, and flying my computer as I saw fit. The people I'm managing are outside of our business. So it's a little bit different from what I was used to in the army, when I was sort of responsible for, as 2IC of a squadron, responsible for 160 people. And a lot of you will be, probably have line management responsibility for, your sections, your troops, your squadrons, or whatever it is, wherever you sit in that organisation. So that was quite a change for me. And I think also the other thing I found quite different when I moved from the army was that civilian life loves a flat management structure, and I know in the army we love to have little tiers and everyone knows who they're reporting to and what their job is and how it goes. It's a little bit more fluid in Civvy Street, and we need to be a little bit more flexible, and I think that's probably the biggest thing that most people I've met and chatted to would struggle with. How would you get into design management? Well, you can either do as I did, start off as a site manager and sort of work your way into it, or a project manager. But if you're in the sappers at the moment and you're a garrison engineer or a professionally qualified officer, or you're a clerk of works, then it's something you could pretty much step into straight away without too many issues. So that's my story. I've probably gone on and bored you long enough now. I think Dom's going to come in now and talk to you about his experience.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks, Rob. That was quite interesting insight into an officer in the Royal Engineers. I was also in the Royal Engineers. My name's Dom Glyde. I started off in the Army Apprentices College when the Army Apprentices College was at Chepstow. So I left school 16 years old and I got myself a job in the Royal Engineers as a carpenter and joiner. So I spent 2 years doing my trade training. I must admit, I wasn't too keen on it. I wanted to do a lot of the soldering stuff, but in the at Chepstow, you did a lot of soldering stuff. It was really exciting time, and I felt that I really excelled in that area to the point of I was promoted to the junior squadron sergeant major. So I was in charge of writing all the duties, which meant that I didn't really do many duties myself. So that was a great time of life. Left there, went to Gibraltar Barracks, did the combat engineer training, and that was really interesting. And my first unit was out in Germany in 5 Field Squadron in 26 Engineer Regiment in Germany, Iserlohn, where I spent a little bit of time. And then before I knew it, I was attached to 3-7 Field Squadron in Hamel, and I did the first tour of Bosnia when Bosnia first kicked off all them years ago. I've now been out of the army 20 years. I left in 2003. So thanks again, Paul, for saying that I left recently. Anyway, so Bosnia, I ended up doing 3 tours of Bosnia. That was quite an interesting time, all 3 of them. The very last time I was blown up, I went over an anti-tank mine. I'm all intact, so I was very lucky in that explosion. And due to some actions of taking some incoming from the Serbs and rescuing the officer out, it was quite injured. They gave me a Queen's Commendation for bravery, which was nice because that helped with the promotion boards. Funnily enough, I was on the full screw board, the very next board, and I quickly rose to the. I was promoted to sergeant, and then went in as the intelligence sergeant. I've also did a tour of Sierra Leone when it was all kicked off out there. So I was training the Sierra Leone forces in Sierra Leone. Northern Ireland, did a tour out there. I'd also been to Kenya and Cyprus and Canada and all them interesting places. So it was a very varied career. Had a really great time. But after 14 years, I left. And it was really to spend more time with my family, young children and everything. I really do think it's quite a young man's game being in the military, and hats off to anyone that does the full 22. So I got my half pension in the bag, so I was happy with that. I started working in Civvy Street as a carpenter. Now that was going really well. So I was working on site as a carpenter. I was building timber framed houses. I was fitting kitchens and all the rest of it. But a funny thing happened one year, about 2005. Where I was laid off just before Christmas, and that was a real dark time. I didn't know what to do. Anyway, I'd done the NEBOSH course during my career transition. I did the NEBOSH General Certificate. I never thought I'd honestly use it, but I did find the course really interesting when you go through all the legislation, the health and safety legislation, and everything else that is linked to it. I put my CV out onto the internet, and I got a start in 2006 with a company called Kier. So I started with Kier, and I quickly found that I excelled within the SHE advisor role. And I think that's because whenever you do a construction task in the Royal Engineers, it's all very well controlled and organised. I felt the same even on bridge building or putting a minefield in or something along them lines. It was always done at night. Everything had to be controlled and organised. You had to have a stores area. It was very dangerous work, but everyone was so well drilled, knowing what they was doing. So the control and organisation sort of came kind of easy to me. And it's the same on Civvy Street. And if you can instill that control and organisation into the building site is going to always look fantastic and look well controlled, which then gives a good positive impression to new people coming onto the site. So I adapted to the role pretty quickly, to be honest. And I've enjoyed it ever since. So I've been working in health and safety now for 17 years with various construction companies. And I've been with Morgan Sindall now for 7 years. And it's been an excellent place to work. There's lots of transferable skills that I found from doing your junior NCOs, CADA, from doing your junior commanders courses and your battlefield section commanders courses. And there's a lot of the mid-management skills that you can transfer quite easily into civilian life. So I found it really helpful. Some of the things that I do now as a SHE advisor would be the main role of the job really is to keep the shareholders and the managers out of jail, because when things go wrong, things can go very wrong in the construction industry. Obviously, it's a dangerous place to work. So that first and foremost, it's keeping people out of jail, keeping people legally compliant. Obviously, the role is to prevent incidents and prevent accidents where at all possible, giving lots of pre-construction advice as well for new projects that we have. the main role really probably is site monitoring, and you've got your proactive monitoring and your reactive monitoring. And what I mean by that is the proactive monitoring is things before something goes wrong. The reactive monitoring is doing investigations into accidents and finding out the reason for the accident happening. In which case you might end up doing some sort of SHE alerts, as we call them, safety, health and environment, SHE alerts or SHE reminders as a result of an accident happening. So one of the main things that I took from the military was problem solving, really. They do a lot of problem solving in the military. It's drilled into you quite well. You think things through in a logical way, and it's exactly the same in civilian life. So if you can bring something to the table in civilian life where you're solving problems in the most economic way, you're gonna do really well. Some other things include writing board reports and writing different processes and procedures as well for the company. Things change quite quickly in the safety world. There's new laws coming in all the time. There's different things at the HSE, who are the enforcing authority. They like to pick different topics, and at the moment they are looking at health related topics. So occupational health is a big thing, manual handling, noise induced hearing loss, respiratory protection is a big thing. And then also you've got the mental health issue, which is coming to the construction industry in a big way. We're trying to break the barriers down, getting the guys to talk to each other, as stuff you probably learned yourselves with regard to mental health. And the same with the HSE. They're looking at, we've got the right procedures and processes with regards to how we look after people, stress policies, the welfare that we put in place for people, which are all legal obligations that we have. So that's my career there in a nutshell. So I'd be happy to take any questions at the right time afterwards. And that's it from me. Thank you very much.
Dominic, that was fantastic. Thank you very much. Can we hand over to our logistics manager now?
Hi, can everyone hear me?
We can, Guy, yes.
Fantastic, great. Okay, my name's Guy, Guy Canavan. I was born in the East End of London in Canning Town. I come from a fourth generation line of costermongers, so market traders basically. So I grew up on the markets in around the London, the East End and the South End of part of London, and I worked with my father on the markets. If you could describe anyone as a Del Boy character, my dad was straight out of that, and I think they took everything from my dad, but a character and only fools and horses. But I learned a lot from them, how to be wise on the streets and how to not do things and do things the right way without getting caught. That came very useful in my later career. We moved out of London in the when I was about 14, I think 14, 15, and moved down to Poole in Dorset, and that's where I spent my formative years, I suppose. And it was there that I kind of got a feel for the military, because I'd seen the Chinooks, the C-130s flying over the Purbex. I've seen the guys flying around in the harbour on ribs and paddling two-man canoes about, and I thought, you know, that's really interesting. I quite fancy that, but it took me a long time to do it, to find that kind of, the seed was sown, but I didn't actually apply to join the Royal Marines until I was 26, so I was quite a late joiner. I was within 3 months really of being too old, so I left it right to the very last minute. I went through training fine, got through training in one go, passed out as an original, and I went to 4-2 Commando, where I spent 3 years as a general duty rifleman. And I did an operational tour of Northern Ireland and South Armagh, and did the normal training after that. I did a Norway training, and we then progressed on to jungle training. After the 3-year point, I decided that I needed to specialise in a particular branch within the Royal Marines. So I chose, because coming from the area of Poole, I chose craft. I became a boat operator and a craft operator, and then specialised in beach reconnaissance and landing point reconnaissance. So we'd be trained to go in before the main landing force, reconnoitre all the beaches, gather all the information required, report back, and then open the landing point up for future operations. I spent 22 years in the Royal Marines. So from the day that I joined, April 97 till April 2019, I did a full 22 years. The promotion was good. I ended up as a rank of W2 Squadron Sergeant Major. And immediate pension, that kind of carrot was dangled on my nose when you get to the kind of senior rank level. So sergeant, you've probably done 12 to 14 years. The carrot is dangled under your nose, and if you left at any point before that, you will not get a pension. So I decided to take it out to the 22-year point and get my pension. I had some fantastic times in Royal Marines. I learned a hell of a lot. I worked with some fantastic people. I did operational tours of Northern Ireland, Sierra Leone, Iraq, Afghanistan, and various other Middle Eastern theatres of operations, Somalia, Yemen, all those kind of dusty places. The time came to leave after my 22. I was offered another 6 years to take me to 55. A bit like Dom, I realised then that family was important. I became a dad late in life at 45, and by the time my daughter was 2 years old, I've spent almost 16 months of that away. So first Christmas, first New Year, watching her, I missed the walk-in part, everything. So I missed a lot and I didn't want to miss anymore. So I said, thank you very much. No, 22 is fine. Take the pension. Thank you very much. Handshake, goodbye, out of the gate, ID card in that. And so I then had a job lined up with a city friend of mine who ran his own events company, supplying barriers and fencing, temporary fencing for gigs, festivals, film premieres and stuff. That was great. It wasn't particularly well paid, but it filled a gap really, and it tided me over until until just like the luck of my dad, something fell into my lap, which it did with construction. So I was furloughed when the events industry got shut down due to COVID. I was on furlough for 4 months, and out of the blue, I get a phone call from a friend of mine. We're both sergeants together. He went the officer route. He was the estates officer at Poole, on the base at Poole, and said that Morgan Sindall were building a facility down there, rehab facility, and a new headquarters for the SBS Association. Morgan Sindall needed someone who knew the base, knew the camp, knew the people, could facilitate, could fight fires, and get little bits and stuff done, and sort out all the security clearance. It's a tier 1 camp, so security, getting people in and out was very strict. He said it's right up your street. So my friend who was still serving put me in touch with the project manager. We had a meeting, and then I came on board at that point. And I was only self-employed for that period of that job. It was a 52-week contract. I was self-employed, and towards the end of it, I obviously did something right, because they said, right, we like what you do, we like the way you manage things, and would you be interested in coming on a full-time basis, and we'll train you up as an assistant site manager. So I completely fell into it. I never thought I'd end up in construction, but sometimes that's just the way things happen. So I had no experience in construction whatsoever, nothing. I knew how to put a bit of wood together and sort of lay a bit of concrete, but that's pretty much my experience. And if I did that, it was all probably wrong anyway, looking at what I know now. But the support that I got from Morgan Sindall during those formative kind of few months was fantastic. Okay? Even though I was self-employed, they could have just given me the 52-week contract and binned me off after that, but they didn't. They put me through a logistics level 2 qualification. So that was an NVQ level 2 in logistics management, construction site logistics. They put me through an SMSTS course. Health and safety, I did a small health and safety course, first aid. So within that period, they'd already invested quite a lot in me. They saw something that they liked, and they thought they'd kind of take that on and give that a bit of nurturance. So I was very grateful for that, and obviously grateful for the opportunity of a full-time position at the end of that self-employed contract. So I got a lot of training. I did a logistics management course. I also did a crane supervisor's course, so I understand all the lifting side of logistics and stuff. So that was great. And then I started my first project as an assistant site manager. After that, only about a month ago, they've now moved me into logistics full-time. So I now become a full-time logistics manager with Morgan Sindall, and I'm currently on a programme project down at Yeovil in Somerset, where we're building an extension to the hospital down here. So logistically, that's challenging, because it's a live building. We've got to keep all the services open. We've got to keep the hospital deliveries moving in and out, or trying to get our cranes in and out and our deliveries done. So logistically, it is quite challenging. But being a former Royal Marine or former serviceman, doesn't matter what branch you're from, there's loads and loads of experience and qualities that you can bring to the party, really. And there's loads, but to name a few: your organizational skills that you learn, your planning skills that you've learned, your time appreciation, looking at a task and allocating a certain amount of time to that task, your communication skills, your people skills, talking to people, logistics, studying a program, a build program, and working out what darts are applicable to you. Like, you'd be given in the military, you'd be given a set of orders, you'd extract what parts of that you needed that were applicable to you, and then you dissect that and you formulate your plan. There's no difference at all with doing that to us working on a 52-week, 100-week program. You take out the bits that are important to you and you work to those. Prioritizing a set of tasks, which is the most important ones to do first, which you can leave till later. Don't get bogged down in doing the unimportant ones first and leaving the and that's all skills you learn in the military, without even thinking about it. You're learning those skills from day one, basically. Your effective leadership, being part of a team, coordinating everything together, working together as a team. That's all stuff you do in the military. Your reliability, all the classic ethos of being in the military: reliability, your discipline, your integrity is a big one. Tell the truth, your timekeeping, all these good stuff you learn within the military. You can take straight from there and put it into the construction industry. You could take that and put it into any other industry, but I think it works well in the construction industry because you're planning, you're thinking ahead, you're looking at what the next part of the program is and what you need to do, where you need to be, with what equipment and at what time, and if you can stick to those principles, I don't think you'll go far wrong being a former serviceman, and some people have served 2 years, 4 years, 10 years, 14, 22 years. You'll learn all those basic fundamentals in your first few years of being a soldier, sailor, or an airman. It's very easy to take those skills and put them into this industry. There's so much you can offer, being a former serviceman. You can relate to people. Your communication skills, I think, is one of the most important ones. Learning how to speak to people and getting the best out of them, giving them praise when praise is due. That's always a big one in the military. If you do well on a particular task, and you'll get a debrief, and you'll get a good chuck up. Basically, if you've done well, you'll be praised for it. And I think that if you do that as an effective team member, then you're going to get so much more out of your people by treating them in that way. Your skills that you've learned during the military and will transfer over so well into the construction industry. I think that's kind of my career in a nutshell. Now I've taken those skills that I learned, and many other servicemen have learned during their time in the military, and transferred them over onto Civvy Street. There are differences, and I'm not gonna lie, I do miss the military a lot, and I'm probably only left in 2019, so I'm still kind of adjusting on certain levels, and I'm not going to lie, there are parts about it that I do get frustrated with, but that is that's just part and parcel. I'll get there. But I've just been so long in the military, it's quite hard to I won't ever ditch any of those ethoses and the things I learned in the military, but I'm just transferring them, and sometimes I have to take them down a little bit and make them applicable to the situation that I'm working in. But that's all achievable. I think that's my kind of career and my transition in a nutshell. But it's an ongoing thing. I'm still going through that process now. So every day that I remind myself of where I was and where I am now, and it's interesting, and I'm enjoying it, and I'm enjoying putting the skills that I've learned in the military into this different environment.
Guy, that was absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much. If we could hand over to our final speaker, Gavin, if you're there, Gavin. Thank you, Guy. Hi, Gavin.
Hello, everyone. So I'm Gavin. I'm a site manager for Morgan Sindall. So a brief kind of run of my military career. So left school at 17. Initially joined the army. So did 4 years in the army. Left for, I think it was 5 years, and then Afghan and everything kind of started. I'd done tours of Northern Ireland, but never really kind of shot around in anger, to say. So I remember watching Commando on the front line, and then from there I was like, right, I want another shot at this. So I joined the Royal Marines, which was more difficult than I thought it'd be, having previous kind of military experience, and it proper really caught me out. But it was hard work, but loved every minute of it. And then deployed to Afghanistan, so went to 4-2 Commando, went to Afghanistan, Unfortunately, near the end of the tour, got hit by an IED. So 7 of us got struck by a roadside bomb on a foot patrol. So we pretty much blew across the road, suffered kind of various physical injuries, and then the bruising bonus was got PTSD off it, which was a right treat to finish me off. So effectively, my military career come to an end, and then I was in a strange kind of transition point where I was based out of Hasler Company, which is our rehabilitation place down in Plymouth. So I went through the system, Headley Court, etc., and then got told I was getting medically discharged. So from there, I was like, I haven't got a clue what to do. You know, all I wanted to do was be a soldier. You know, I'd had 2 shots at it. I was then going out. I knew how difficult it was going to be. And I also had this psychological injury now, which was were ideal. So I remember getting an opportunity of a work placement for a building company, and that's pretty much how I got involved with it. So effectively, for 6 months, I worked for free. So I went in to a building contractors on like working for free for 6 months while the military was paying me wages. In that time, I'll be honest, when I first started it and they said kind of construction, I was thinking, I don't want to be labouring, I don't want to be doing this, you know, I haven't done no courses at college. And then they said to me, right, you can do work placement and shadow a site manager. And I was like thinking, not a chance. I'm like a broken man here. I can't manage myself, never mind a building site. And so went in there with an open mind, started kind of chipping away at it, and it was really strange because they almost talked a different language in construction. You know, I was sat in meetings and didn't have a clue what anyone was going on about. But then I just started kind of writing everything down, picking up on certain things, stuck at it, and within a couple of weeks, it actually started kind of started helping me out. You know, it started getting me more confident in front of people again. You know, and I started to kind of see the transferable skills that I could pass over from my military career into the building industry. And as that kind of progressed, people started noticing things in me, and there was like, you're actually doing well at this. So we want to take you on. So from a work placement, they took me on as a trainee site manager, which I really enjoyed. It was an opportunity, and that's all you really need. What you need is an opportunity, somebody to give you a chance. And then if someone gives you a chance, it's up to you. Then you've got to walk through that door. You've got to grab the bull by the horns, and you've got to make it happen. You know, when you come out, no one's going to give you anything. You know, you're wanting an opportunity, but when you get the opportunity, you've got to take it. Then you've got to go hunt for it. You know, don't just come out and think, oh yeah, it's going to happen. I've done 22 years in the forces, I've done 10 years, whatever. It don't mean nothing. You know, you come out and it means everything in the military, but you have to start again. You know, and so you've got to remember that, and you've got to be ruthless with it. You've got to really kind of go for it. So like I say, I got an opportunity. I worked my way up to assistant, and then worked up to site manager, where I now kind of I've run various sites, kind of have been in the industry now about 10 years. So what I found kind of transferable skills that helped me out was pretty much like what a lot of the other lads were saying, you know, your man management, you know, you kind of how you adapt and overcome, first you have to have a plan, but if it goes pear-shaped, you need to know how to get round it. So you're not flapping, you're not rushing, you're taking a bit of a moment and then coming up with another plan of how you'll get round it. And you're planning everything. You're not waiting for something to drop on your lap on a Tuesday when you're not prepared for it, like a lot of people do. You're preempting everything that's going to happen, like we do in the forces. Like when you're looking at drawings, it's like looking at a map. Same thing. If you're delivering a set of orders, it's a daily briefing that you're doing. So you've got all them skills. You just need the opportunity to learn the building side of it, because in an industry like Morgan Sindall, we don't build it ourselves. We get other people to build it, and we have to observe it and make sure it's done right. So we're not actually building it, we're controlling everything. So a site manager, in effect, is the equivalent of like a troop sergeant. So, and then as you go up the chain of command, you kind of colour sergeant will be like your project manager, and then your ops manager will be your sergeant major, and it's the same type of rank structure as you go through. So moving on from that, I've been involved with BuildForce for a while, and we've had loads of work placements and just trying to give people the opportunities that I had. Where you come to site, you do a work placement, somebody spots what you're doing, you can get in there, you can adapt, and from that position, as like Guy will probably say, that's where your opportunity can come. So we do loads of work placements, and I'd strongly kind of advise doing that. Also, if you are thinking about coming into construction, you've got your enhanced learning credits. So if you're coming into site management, or that's kind of your thing, I'd be looking at kind of like NEBOSH courses that you could pick up. Then you'd be looking at your SMSTS. I did a MVQ level 6 in civil engineering, so construction, and then as we got into Morgan Sindall, they was giving me other opportunities for different training. So once you get in with a company, you can grow. And then what you want to kind of a good thing with a military leader, or leaver, should I say, is we're never happy with where we are. So you start as a trainee. I mean, I was obviously Marined, and so we'd you start as a trainee, you get there and you're like, right, I've made it to assistant, right, what's next? I'm not happy at assistant, how do we get to site manager? Right, you've got this and this to do, right, there's my path, I'm going to do it. You get there, then you look up and you go, right, senior site manager, what do we have to do? So you're never happy with where you're at, and that drive to get you up will get you from getting through the door to where you want to be. So never kind of lose them morals. And then last but not least, you've got to, if you do get an opportunity, don't undersell yourself, because I've had loads of lads like sergeant majors, all sorts. I had a guy who come from pool, so like special forces and stuff, and it's when they're talking to our contracts managers and they're kind of trying to sell themselves, they're underselling themselves. It's like, if you can manage people, that's all it is. It's managing people, it's getting people to do things the right way. So as you've gone through your career, don't undersell yourself. Go to these interviews and look straight through them. Because you've got to get an opportunity off someone. You can't. No one's, like I say, no one's going to give you anything. Then you got to go in there, you got to be confident, and you got to tell them how it is. And that's pretty much it. But going forward, if anybody ever wants any advice or whatever, honestly, get hold of like the guys, get hold of myself, get hold of BuildForce, because there is opportunities there. And if you wanted to come into the industry, it's good industry to be in, and I'm sure you'd enjoy it. That's
Gavin,
pretty
was
much.
brilliant. Well
Okay.
done, you, Gavin. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. So if I could ask all our speakers to switch their cameras on. If you have any questions, please put them in the box or raise your hand and we'll get to you. We'll kick off with a couple just to warm our speakers up. Paul, thank you to you for kicking us off this morning. So one quick question actually is, could you actually talk us through your role as a social value lead? We're seeing more and more interest in this career option, so I thought it would be worth asking that first.
Yes, of course. So in essence, social value manager role has two primary functions: to work with the clients and to work with the project teams to develop opportunities for people to take advantage of. So to put that in context, if we're building a school in any area, my role there is to create opportunities for workless local residents, for apprentices, but also to engage with local people and set up work experience opportunities, to work with people such as BuildForce, and to ensure that we're going to as wide a possible talented group, if you like, to take advantage of them. Sort of further afield and more broadly, we also deal with economic development, i.e. we try to engage with as many local businesses and local people as we can, with the idea that the more that we spend with them, the more is reinvest in the local area. And probably the biggest one, or the one that's sort of gained most traction recently, is environmental. Again, we're in an area for a certain period of time building, and our role there is also to support the environment. So by that I mean we make improvements to the air quality. We try to look after our water, by which I mean we deal with water reduction. We set targets for low carbon and net carbon zero. We make sure our electricity, in more often than not, in most cases, provided by solar panels. And all of that kind of thing, we use biofuel. And in essence, I think it's fair to say that the social value role cuts into many different areas. Obviously, it's good to see Dominic on here because I do a bit of work with health and safety, but it also deals with the commercial teams, like the commercial aspects. Very occasionally, I come across Rob, obviously, in respect to the design. But for me, it's fantastic. The other side of all of that is dealing with the clients, by which I typically mean local authorities. We do a lot of private work, but local authorities have a vested interest in making sure their people and their communities are represented. And a really fundamental part of my role is keeping them on side, obviously supporting them and supporting the local areas.
Okay, and you would consider service leavers to do that role?
Of course. I think the key skills that I would look for, I mean, you can probably tell just by the way I've just spoken, it's definitely been able to talk. And that, that's a key thing. Just listening to all the guys speaking then. Obviously, I'm not ex-military, but what came across to me, that everybody spoke as themselves. They didn't try to put on an accent, they didn't try to put on a face. Everybody just came across extremely well. So for me, the key thing is, people buy from people and people speak to people. So it's being able to communicate. And, you see written on job descriptions and person specs must be able to communicate at all levels. What I'm doing right now and what I do with clients is communicating at all levels. Elements of project management, obviously, and lots of sort of engagement, by which I mean even this that we're doing now, working alongside Guy, Rob, Gavin and Dominic and, the wider teams, just bringing it all together. There's loads of different skills I think if you're in the military you can bring to my role.
Okay, and a question to you. Why are Morgan Sindall so brilliant? Why are they so popular? What makes them such a good employer?
Is that for me or for everybody?
Yeah, well, I'll start with you, Paul. Yeah.
But it's interesting. Again, this is the third and the last time I'm going to say I'm not ex-military, but I am a child of military people. And I spent 10, 15 years working in the charitable and voluntary sector. And I won't bore you with all the details, but it was fairly cutthroat. And the only way I can describe it is when I came to Morgan Sindall, I'm going to misquote, I think it was Rob here, I thought I was also going to be dealing with sort of flat nose builders and, brickies and carpenters and that. And what I actually found is that I would say 95% of the people I work with are absolutely sound. So when you have a conversation with somebody, you are treated with respect. It's not just something that they say, and it's not just a box that they tick. You work hard and you're well rewarded for it. It was unfortunate that my slides got stuck on the first slide. I wish somebody had said something, but one of my slides, it indicated all the different things that that accrue by dint of working for Morgan Sindall. So it talks about, your annual leave accruances. There is a pension scheme that you can pay into. There's healthcare. There's all the things that, you know, that I'd never heard of, and then suddenly I'm doing all of them. But for me, the key to it is the people I work with.
Okay, and can you just describe for those listening the onboarding process and those first couple of months of somebody starting with Morgan Sindall? Is there a structured program for them just to help them soft land and settle in?
Yes, in a word, yes, there is.
Okay.
And again, notwithstanding this is about the military, you know, we have apprentices, we have grads, we have undergrads, we have year-round summer placements, we have career changes. We do lots of work to make sure that opportunities created within the construction sector are appropriate to everybody. You know, lots of people talk about the EDI agenda. You know, we do all of this kind of stuff. And as a consequence of that, we make it as easy as we can and as good as we can to onboard people in the most appropriate manner. In respect of ex-military, obviously we're doing some great work with BuildForce at the moment. But myself, one of my colleagues, Andy Waddington, we have recently received the silver accreditation. I think it's called the Military Covenant, which basically it gives kudos to a lot of the work that we're doing with ex-military. And part and parcel of that is we're now working on alumni sessions. We're also working on mentoring sessions. So people from the military joining us, if they are, you know, a little bit lost and or they've got any questions or queries, any of that kind of stuff, then what we're trying to do is join them up with other people. And so beyond that, we've also got lots of reservists. You know, we're making sure that they're available. So there's lots of work going on behind the scenes specifically to support ex-military joining the construction sector in Morgan Sindall.
Okay, so that'll be good for those, good to hear for those listening. A question to Rob, our head of design. If somebody wanted to move into this role, are there any entry requirements that you would like to see on their CV, or do you recommend that they go off and get industry experience the way you did with Canary Wharf Contractors and then move into a design role?
Yeah, I think there's two distinct ways really. One is to go and get a qualification in something related to design or design related. So that's why I said that people with that sort of that background in design. So whether and again I'm sort of talking about sappers, but the design draftsmen, the clerk of works, the GEs, people like that. So Andy Waddington, who's my opposite number in London, is an ex clerk of works, for example. So he came in direct into the role. But I do think that, you know, we have a lot of design managers who are ex-site managers, ex-project managers, who just had a really keen interest in making sure the design was right and analysing. I mean, it's good to have a curious and analytical mindset, I think. And so for people who are curious and interested in I always say to our graduates, you know, that 22 years on, and there isn't a day that goes by when I don't learn something new about building or about some of the regulations, because things are changing and every project is slightly unique in a different way, and there's always new challenges that are presented. So I think I think probably, you know, if you don't already have a design qualification, you can either go and think about going away and getting something like that, or you can get yourself into the construction industry in a site management role, and then actually sort of talk to the people in the business and say, well, I'm really interested in design management, and you know, companies like Morgan Sindall will always be looking for people to grow into these roles, and perhaps organise some training for you to do in-house, for example.
And you would offer yourself up as a mentor or just have a career chat with somebody if they're thinking about it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
Tell them the 9 to 5. You enjoy the role?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't be here 20 years later if I didn't.
Fantastic.
And I think, you know, just to echo what Paul said, I think, you know, we do enjoy ourselves. We work hard, we play hard, and you know, the industry is much better rewarded than most people would think, frankly. We work quite hard. We you know, we all put the time in and the dedication in, but we have fun while we do it, and we get paid a decent salary. So the wonderful thing about the building industry, I think, is you can start right at the bottom and work your way up to the top. So we have a chap in our office here who is a pre-construction manager. So he reports into our area director. He leads all our pre-construction. He started his life at the age of 16 as an apprentice carpenter. And he's been all the way up to be a commercial director in Balfour BT as well. So it doesn't matter who you are, or where you start. You can reach as high and as far as you want to, as long as you're prepared to put the effort in.
Brilliant. That's great to hear. Thank you for that. A question to Dom, our Senior Health and Safety Advisor. You mentioned a policing role around preventing incidents and accidents, and then you mentioned this proactive, reactive approach. Just on that, can you spot a veteran on site before you ask them if they are one?
Actually, yeah, it's funny you say that. So sometimes I do, just through people's mannerisms. And when you engage with them and you start talking to them, I mean, I try to engage with as many of the lads on site as possible. And it's just a few little words, maybe an abbreviation or the way he explains something. Then I ask, "Oh, are you ex-military at all?" And generally, I've got a good eye for meeting the ex-military.
Okay.
Yeah,
I mean, very much. Sorry, just the role you're doing, it does seem to be about caring about others. Is that a character trait that you've got?
I wouldn't really say it's so much about caring about others, although there's always a team ethos, which obviously I took from my military days as well. But that team ethos does happen on site as well, especially with trades, the various different trades. They tend to work and look after one another. Although we're trying to break the barriers down further where people are comfortable to be able to warn others of a hazard. People are not necessarily within their working area, because it's a very dangerous industry and from time to time, and people just, they sometimes are blind to some of the hazards. So by breaking down the barriers and working as one team, having a one team approach, where people are not scared about talking to somebody else about safety or warning them of a hazard or something going wrong. I wouldn't necessarily say that I was the caring, sharing type to begin with.
You warm and cuddly, or have I completely misread you?
However, I just became sort of sickly interested in the rules and regulations around health and safety. I never realised they were so wide and diverse. And it was only until I did the NEBOSH course that I realised that actually I had a bit of an interest in it as well. And it's things that you do naturally. A lot of it is put into a regulation, but it's things that you would do normally, and I was never the one for health and safety myself, but I'm definitely the poacher turned gamekeeper now.
Seem to be. And just on your point there on courses, and it's a question to you, Guy, you kind of really upskilled, didn't you? You listed all the courses. Was that to do the role, or was that just a personal thing that you wanted to do?
Yeah, I think a lot of it was stuff that was offered to me. So the logistics, they wanted me to leave, even if I was only there for a year on a self-employed basis. They wanted me to leave with a qualification. So they put me through a NVQ level 2 in construction site logistics. So I had that under my belt. But then when they took me on full time, they just started firing more and more courses at me. So, but yeah, I was hungry to get more courses. So I applied for a crane supervisor's course. I applied for my SMSTS. And they're more than happy to. I think if you show a keenness and you show that you want to progress and you want to get yourself qualified up, they're more than happy to support you. If the money's in the training budget, they'll put you on those courses. So, but you've got to. You've got to want to ask for them. You've got to put yourself forward, and and just like you would in the military. If you want to excel in the military, you have to shine, you have to stand out, and you have to show that you're keen to progress. And to progress, you need to get yourself qualified, and to get yourself qualified, you need to push for the qualifications. So you just got to show a bit of keenness, and if you show that, they're more than happy to support you and more than happy to give you these courses.
And that's a good employer, isn't it? One that'll invest in you and train you and coach you. So Robert and Dominic kind of describe themselves like the furniture now. They've been out that long. You obviously left in 2019. Do you remember what that felt like? Can you just share with those listening what those first couple of weeks or months will be like for them?
It was exciting. It was definitely exciting leading up to leaving. Once you've left, you very quickly realise you're on your own.
Right.
And it's a really weird experience to realise that now you're on your own, and you realise that the support network has just disappeared.
Okay, so we don't want to frighten you, but and Guy, did you find that?
Yeah.
I did, yeah. You know, like you say, as soon as you leave, the machine keeps rolling on. You know, you step off that conveyor belt, and the military just keeps moving on. It's got a job to do, and it'll just keep moving. You step off, and you're out of the game, and you do kind of feel like you've been, you know, left out and left abandoned. But as soon as you find a direction, you know, it might take you 2 or 3 jobs. You know, you might. You know, I know some guys are on their 4th, 5th job since leaving the military. They still haven't found their right direction yet, but it will happen. And when you find it, you know that this is where I want to be. You know, I'm comfortable here. But you won't always get that first time round. You know, your first couple of jobs might be totally unsatisfactory. And I know, like I say, I know blokes that are on their 4th, 5th, 6th job now after leaving, and they've only left like 5 years. You know. But you eventually will find something. You just got to persevere. But like Gav said, no one's going to give it to you. You know, no one's going to. What they kind of did with me, it kind of fell into my lap. But I was very, very fortunate. But you won't get given it. You need to go out and look for it. You need to sell yourself, like Gav said. You know, you don't undersell yourself. You know, you've got a lot of skills as a former service person. You know, you've got a lot of skills to offer. Yeah, you just got to sell those skills. You know, to any future employer.
So they'll find that purpose in that community, and you replicate it, which is what we think construction does very, very well. And just on that, Gavin, listen, thank you very much for that. You started your civic career with a broken foot, shall we say. Can I ask you, what got you through that period? Was it family? Was it your own willpower? So to those listening here and now, what would you say to them that are going through a very, very similar experience?
Yeah, what got me through it was family. I had a wife, 2 kids, and my worst enemy was me, nobody else. So dealing with that, you know, and kind of but then what I had to do is kind of I had to fill my mind full of things to do, because if you're your own worst enemy and you've got nothing to do, all you're doing is thinking. So I had to kind of understand that to start with, and then once I got given, like you say, an opportunity, and then it was like, right, they're going to take me on here, so we need to learn this, and this. I got given a goal, and then when you get given a goal, these steps to achieve that goal, and then once you hit it and you look at the next one and you go, right, I need to focus all my energy into hitting this next goal. So the way I kind of see it is, when I'm having dramas at night and I'm having all sorts of dramas, I'm better off having dramas about worrying about whether doors are fitting than I am of seeing my mates getting blown up. So it's a lesser of 2 evils, and it was hard. It was hard, but once I learned pretty quick that actually working and being active and not being like you hear about someone who has kind of psychological injuries or whatever, PTSD, all that good stuff. You expect to see a guy on a park bench, whereas that's the worst thing you can do, so you need to occupy your mind with stuff. So I knew I had to do it, so I focused my mind. I got given a chance, and I was like, I can't afford to mess this up. So I still have dramas, big time, get flashbacks all the time, but I know how to kind of I know they're going to pass, and I've got to continue to progress and have a goal, and that's it. It's.
And in terms of your role in site management, what do you most enjoy about it, Gavin?
The one on from that, keeping my mind busy.
Yeah, okay.
That's hard, because honestly, you haven't got a minute to yourself, which is ideal, because you're not thinking about what's happening on site now. You're thinking about, right, what's happening next week, what's happening the week after that. Because if you're not, it'll creep up on you, and it'll be like, bang, here you go. Have you prepared for that when you haven't? you know, so you're almost looking into the future. Sounds a bit crazy, but you are.
And most frustrating part of the role?
When you're in the forces, you get given a job and everyone pulls together to get it done. And sometimes the industry can be a bit jack. Don't know where. An example, these ceiling fixers come in and went, oh, I can't get into this room. It's full of gear. Walked in there were 10 pots of paint. And you're like, really? And he was like, yeah, I don't get paid to move that. So you'll go, right, whatever. Get it shipped. Not everyone's like that, but it's, yeah, it can get a bit like that. That's a frustration, but that's minor. You've just got to like Dom said, you got to know how to talk to people. So obviously with my accent, I wouldn't I fit in better with people out on the street than I do with a load of people with suits. But I can sit in them meetings, but the guys who are actually doing the building are the guys who I can relate to. So
okay, and I'm laughing there because my dad owns a dry line and suspended ceiling company, so I'll relay your story to him tonight when I see him.
Yeah.
That's what his trade's like. Right, a couple of questions. Thank you very much for that, Gavin. A couple of questions have come in, so we'll just run through them. We've got, excuse me, Albert. So leaving the army after 18 years with a logistics background, but looking to move into crane operations. So he's listed out all the courses that he's got. So we'll probably ask you, Guy, is that an achievable career aspiration for him?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I don't know what qualifications he's got at the moment, but certainly the A62, which is a crane supervisor's course, which is a good one. You'll get after the initial course, you'll get a red card, which lasts you for 2 years. You have to do an MVQ level 4 in lifting operations, which will get you a blue card, which lasts for 5 years. So I did the MVQ, which is relatively easy. A bloke came to site and he done it in a day, you know what I mean? Whereas my logistics MVQ, it probably took me 18 months to complete. But a lot of the MVQ level 4 stuff is all evidence-based. So you'll just produce a set of documents, a lift plan, you'll produce some crane certification, you'll do a small video of you directing a crane on a site. It's all very simple, and that qualification lasts you for 5 years. And as a crane supervisor, working via an agency, you can get £250, £300 a day,
Okay, so it's definitely an option for him. We can link the two of you if we need to, but thank you for that question. Mohesh has asked a question. So he's sitting here, he wants to be a project manager. What should he do next? So Caroline has advised that we connect through her to connect him to Morgan Sindall. Would that be your advice, Paul? Just channel all queries and interest through BuildForce in the first instance?
Yeah, in the first instance, I think since working with BuildForce, we've got a fairly robust process in place now where Caroline and her team deal with the CVs, the candidates who think are appropriate, and once the CVs are available, then typically I would forward them to either the appropriate social value manager across the country or to the appropriate HR and recruitment team across the country. So I think that works really well. So definitely Caroline is your first point of call. The other couple of things I would add to that is if anybody is looking for experience, and I think Gavin said he did a fair amount of work experience, i.e. unpaid. I mean, we wouldn't recommend 6 or 9 months worth, but if anyone were looking for insight and taste of days, assuming we have project availability and in your location, that's also something that we can deal with. And more pertinently, although, as I say, the slides got stuck, there is also another really good place to look is our website. And it might just be have a look on the website and then have a conversation with Caroline to work out the best way of applying for it.
Perfect. Okay. And Sunny, my dear, how are you doing? Welcome. You got a question?
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
We can, yes.
How are you doing? You all right? Good afternoon. Nice to see you, Angela and Caroline. I feel like I speak to you more than I speak to my wife, but
we don't mind. We don't mind.
Really fascinating to listen to everyone's story. I just wanted to introduce myself because hopefully you'll be seeing a lot more of me in the future. I was lucky enough to attend the Insight Day, the BuildForce Insight Day with in Manchester, and I met Rob Fitzgerald and Tricia Adams, who was manning the Morgan Sindall stand, and it was my favourite stand, I'm not going to lie. I have a background in carpentry, similar to Dominic, so your story resonates. I'm leaving the military in April next year, but I'm due to start work in March. With my termination leave, I'm able to start working from the 11th of March, which I fully intend to do so. I'm due my official onboarding BuildForce call with Angela next week on the 24th, I believe, and I'll be definitely pushing for work placement with Morgan Sindall, specifically the Trinity Way projects. I know you've got a couple going in Manchester, so that'd be absolutely ideal for me if that was an opportunity. My question is, so by the time I leave, or by the time I'm able to work from the 11th of March, I would have had, I'll have my CSCS card, my SMSTS, and I will also have completed my APM project management qual. So it's probably more directed at you, Gavin. What else would you suggest I concentrate on in regards to sort of action tasks to give me the best chance of gaining employment with Morgan Sindall, hopefully after completing some weeks placement as well?
So like the basic stuff. So CSCS card to get onto site to start with, and then your basic kind of requirements for, are you looking at like what role are you looking at, like my route, like site management route, or?
Yeah, so project management is where I envision myself ultimately ending up. I want to become project manager. I understand, obviously, experience is key, and I'm not going to be able to just go straight onto site as a project manager after spending 12 years in the army. So site manager would be the way in. I see. Hopefully, after speaking with, like I say, Rob and Tricia at the event, I think that's probably the best route in.
Yeah. So what you, first of all, CSCS card, that'll get you kind of access to be able to go on site and then actually maneuver around with the team that you're going to be on board with. Then you need to look at SMSTS. That's your minimum requirement to be a site manager. So that's like all your health and safety stuff. It'll go into regulations. It's your basic kind of entry level in. So you need to look at that. Then possibly I did MVQ level 4 or 3, I think it was, when I was still in the Marines, and that was like a day release from college. I think it was about $3,000 or something. But I actually paid for that, and then someone had come to see on site, be assessing what you do, and then you've got a load of modules to go through. And then Morgan Sindall, they kind of paid for the other stuff, but to start off with, CSCS card, SMSTS, see if you can get, you need a first aid qualification as well. And that's about it to get you going. And then, like you say, from there, you get in there, then you learn the procedures. Then you've got your own ethoses from whatever unit you serve in. We've got our kind of ethoses as well. So a service leaver will follow them. That's the difference between like a civilian and someone who's in our industry. You get given a procedure and you follow it. And that's half the battle. And then you'll get in there, you'll pick it up. But then, like I say, you've got to grab the bull by the horns. You can't mess about. You got to get in there and you got to pick a job. Say to them, right, I want to do a little bit more. Do you need help with a logistics plan? Do you need help with this? And then actually make the site manager's life easy. And then he's going to say to his boss, he's a decent lad. Let's have a word. And that's how you got to do it. can't just go in there, sit down, and kind of just play lip service to it. Got to go for it.
Yeah, Roger.
Yeah, Sonny, if I can add a bit to what Gav said there, I think if you ask questions, just wherever you go, if you get out on site, just ask questions. And I did it purely to gain and improve my knowledge of construction, because I like yourself, I mean, you'll find I knew nothing about construction at all. So I go up and ask the ground workers, well, what are you doing there? And when they realise you're not trying to catch them out, by dodgy practices, I actually don't know. I don't know what you're doing, mate. Can you just explain what you're doing? And they're more than happy to talk to you about it and say, well, we're putting this steel down here and it's 50 mil off the ground, and then we got this to go on there, then we tidy. You just at every level just ask questions, and then, like I say, once they realise you're not there to catch, they see your Morgan Sindall logo and you're hard at, and they go, oh, cry, yeah, he's trying to catch me out here, but you're not. You just say, I don't know what you're doing, mate. I'm new to this. I'm just trying to learn, and they're more than happy. 9 times out of 10, they'll sit and talk to you about what they're doing. Then you'll just understand the process of groundworks, substructure, steel works, concrete pouring, all that kind of stuff. You only get to learn by asking questions, and make sure that you surround yourself with people that know more than you, and suck it in like a sponge, mate.
Yeah, Roger, thank you.
Thanks for the question, Sonny. Paul, did you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, it was a wider point, because obviously Sonny started talking about, I think it was carpentry, CSCS, etc. And the majority of the Morgan Sindall group, we typically subcontract our trade packages. But notwithstanding that, I think there is always an option. If you go via Caroline and send us your CVs, we can forward them to the appropriate supply chain managers across the country, who can then get it in front of the majority of our suppliers. So if you are a tradesperson, it's not that we don't in most cases recruit, but we do recruit subcontractors who will always be after sort of new people to the industry.
Okay, I think that's a great point, Paul. Another question coming from Lloyd. He's asking about locations. So the enormity of Morgan Sindall will mean that if you're employed in a certain region, there you shall remain. There should be enough work locally for you to stay within that location, or are you all travelling kind of nationwide? What does that look like for you, Dom? Are you in a certain region?
Yeah, I work specifically in London only.
Right.
So the whole of the UK is split up into different regions. So I work for London and home counties, which is a bit of the southeast, London, and the home counties in Hertfordshire. The next region, there is no southern region, that was disbanded, and the London home counties inherited some of that region. But central and west is probably the biggest region, with Wales and the southwest. And then you've got the northern regions. So I think you've got northeast region, northwest region, and Scotland. So that's pretty much how we're broken up. So yeah, you could work anywhere within your particular region. And yeah, like I say, we are a national business, so we are working in every 4 corners of the UK. Yeah.
Okay, and within that structured, Dominic, you'll have sectors that you work in. So questions come in from Nick on the energy sector. Does one exist in Morgan Sindall? Are there opportunities there? Absolutely.
Yeah, I think Paul knows more about that, but I know of the nuclear energy sector up in Cumbria. Don't know if you can expand.
So that's Paul. Our sister business, really, isn't it?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Morgan Sindall has multiple. Morgan Sindall Group has multiple businesses, and Paul touched on it earlier about the refurbishment businesses, the investment businesses. So energy sector would be Morgan Sindall Infrastructure, and they are involved in lots of large energy projects. There was a query there in that same comment about power generation for our projects. So typically we try and connect to a local infrastructure where we can, and where we can't, we buy in generation from our suppliers, and we're looking more and more to use greener energy production methods for that. So we're looking at solar and hybrid generators, but generally speaking, on most of our projects, wherever we can, we try and get a temporary power supply from the local network.
Okay, great question, Nick. Thank you for that, and thank you for the answer, Robert. 2 last questions before we wrap up. The first one probably to Dom or Robert, because you've been out the longest. What are the most common mistakes that you see service leavers or veterans make? Either one of you?
Well, one thing I see them make a lot of the time is that they equate the rank that they left, the senior rank, either sergeant, staff sergeant, warrant officer, and they think that they will immediately relate that job to a civilian job, and it doesn't always work like that. And I know people that have failed to get jobs that they want because they've aimed too high, because they said, well, I was an RSM in the army, so therefore I want a very senior management role, and it doesn't always work like that sometimes. But all I can say off the back of that is that I think Gavin gave the good advice here, where get into that role, and also with Guy, he said get into that role, and you'll soon exceed at that role if you're keen, if you learn the role, and if you want to go up the chain, and like Gavin was saying, look at what you need to get to the next goal and to the next goal. You'll soon work your way up. So you really will soon work your way up by starting in a more of a mediocre position.
Okay,
yeah, I think it's.
Sorry, Robert.
No, I think it is exactly that. It's be humble, work hard, be enthusiastic. Most of the ex-servicemen I come across have really come across well because they are enthusiastic. They're go-getters. They're generally self-starting, so they'll just pick things up. They won't just stop and ask questions. They'll just get on with it. Be all of those things. I think just probably my biggest failing, I'm still working on it, as some people might testify to, is just remember that some people don't react as well to the slightly more direct approach you might be used to. There is a time and a place for calling a spade a spade. Some people need stroking and hugging a little bit more and certainly in Civvy Street, and you just have to make that balance. Embrace your cuddly side.
Okay, that's what we think Dom is cuddly, but he's refusing it. And just on what you were saying, Dom, sorry, just a sub question to that. On salaries, should people expect to transition on what they're on, or should they be flexible around that?
Salaries really vary.
Right, okay.
I mean, you can be doing the same job for a different company and the salary is completely different from one company to the next. And that's the thing. I think you ought to, certainly aim for a reasonable salary, but certainly don't try to go too crazy, because you'll just price yourself out. It's really difficult one on salaries. I mean, I must admit, when I came on Civvy Street, I had no idea that you could do the same job and get a different pay for it. I just thought if you was a lollipop lady, you get this much, or if you was a lawyer, you get this much. I had no idea that people were doing the same jobs and earning different money. When I found that out, I soon started moving around and to earn myself more money. So yeah, that was how naive I was on leaving. Yeah,
I think there are documents out there as well that sort of give a banding for different job roles as to what you probably could expect. And so it's good if you're looking at a particular role. It's good to sort of research that and talk to recruiters about what that aspiration could be, so that when you go out and you're talking to people about your expectations, that you're pitching yourself. Because if you go to an interview, one of the questions will be, what are your salary expectations? If you pitch it way too high, then you just it's going to turn people off. When you're interviewing people and they say they want a really high salary, they're automatically going to assume that if they offer you something less, you're not going to accept it. So the chances are you probably won't even get an offer. So know where the ballpark is and know where to pitch it for your experience level, and be realistic, I would say.
Okay, and just a final question to Gavin and Guy. They say that it's not just the service leaver that transitions, it's their family as well. Can I ask advice you would give to other families transitioning with the service leavers? How was it for your own family? We'll start with you, Guy. Oh, sorry, yeah, Guy.
I've been very lucky. My wife's been very supportive of me. If I said the decision I was going to stay in at my 22-year point and done another 6 years, which would take me to 55, then she would have supported me. She would have let me stay in, but it was my decision. So she would have supported me on either of those decisions, really. But it was my choice to leave after 22. I looked at the jobs that were available after that, and none of them really kind of floated my, didn't really do it for me, really. I had a good time. I had a good run. I finished off where I wanted to finish off in a job that I wanted to do. It's one of my tick-off jobs that I do to be a squadron sergeant major. So I've done that, and then I thought, that's it. I'm done. It's like it's my choice to leave. But my family's been, my wife was very supportive over it. If I said to her that I'm going to stay until 55, I could have maxed out on a bit more pension. I would have got a bigger lump sum. But you know what? Money's not everything. It's not all about that. It's all about your quality of life and how you spend it with your family, and just to have weekends at home and get home every night, which is something I just wasn't used to. And I was a weekend dad for the first couple of years of my daughter's life, but now I can take her to school, I can do the stuff, I can pick her up from after school clubs and stuff, and I'm spending a lot more quality time there. But that was my choice, And if I just say just one more thing, and we were talking about salaries a minute ago, if you're a service leaver and you're in receipt of an immediate pension, right, then that should not be taken into account when negotiating your salary. You've earned that, that's in the bag, that's yours. So, and I know Morgan Sindall isn't one of them, but I know lads that have left after 22 plus years, immediate pension, and they've gone to apply for a job and they've gone, well, you're in the military for 22 years, you've got a pension, so we're only going to give you this much. And it's rubbish. It sits aside. You've earned that. Let it go. It shouldn't affect the way you negotiate your salary.
Okay, that's a very good point, Guy. And just to close for you, Gavin, that transition for your family.
With mine, it was like them getting used to me being about. It's all right every now and again, when you kind of say you're away, you come back, but actually being there full time, you've got to adapt to how they live, and so you've got to get through that period. And then also just to finish, all say in the Corps, in the Marines, you finish half day on a Wednesday, half day Friday. That's out the window straight away, because you will have to graft. You're going to have to put the hours in. You might not get home at 4. You might not get home at 5. You definitely ain't getting home at 12 on a Friday, no chance. So you got to get used to the actually putting the hours in. Like in the forces, you put the hours in when you're on exercise or you're in the field, but when you're on camp, everyone knows what it's like. You're home half days, but all that's out the window.
I've tried to bring in a Wednesday sports make amend here, Gav, but it's not going down well, mate.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Well, listen, thank you to Paul, Rob, Guy, Dominic and Gavin for their incredible contribution today. Harnessing the energy of our people to achieve the improbable is the Morgan Sindall slogan, and never a truer word spoken. What a fantastic team and a brilliant company. So thank you very much to our military community, to you that are watching. That vastness and depth is certainly food for thought today. So I hope you consider this as a career, and I certainly hope you consider Morgan Sindall as your employer of choice. Remember, you are not alone. BuildForce are here to support and guide you as you transition. So please get in touch if you have any questions, and we will help you take it further. And I'll pass back to Caroline for some final insights.
Oh, thanks, Angela. That really was good. But touching on Robert's phrase, I'm much more of a spade than a cuddly person. So tough love in this camp. But thank you. It was fantastic. And to get so many different angles and career disciplines was really great value. And just to say to our audience, any further connections, opportunities, mentoring, work placements, getting closer to Morgan Sindall, please do just get in touch with the team. That's what we're here for. And we work really closely with Morgan Sindall. So what's coming up next? We have our penultimate virtual career chat next week, back to back. That will be focusing on logistics, 2 very different perspectives. We have a director and we have a fleet's inventory manager as well. So 2 very different sides of the role. And then with Morgan Sindall, infrastructure though this time, at the end of the month, 30th of November, with TfL, Transport for London, and their supply chain, we have a project day. And no, it's not about driving trains. It's about the infrastructure in the South south, east, and the opportunities that are there, from boots on the ground to leadership and management in between, so everything. So please do book your place, message, email info@buildforce.org.uk, and don't miss out. It's going to be a fantastic event. So that's it. That's a wrap. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, those that are listening and those that are watching in your own time, having a cup of sandwich or whatever you fancy. And we'll see you on the 30th of November at TfL in London. Okay, thanks, guys.
Thank you.